My name is Candace. I am the artist behind the CURB, or the Collaborative Urban Resilience Banquet. And today I am here with my coworker, Hackberry, at my day job. I am the wild food educator at Stuyvesant Cove Park in Lower Manhattan. If you don't know, Stuyvesant Cove Park is a publicly forageable food forest of predominantly native plants on the East River between 18th and 23rd Street. It is built with clean soil on top of a former industrial site, and it is a place where you can come and forage for food. It is co-managed by Solar One, the nonprofit that I work for, and the New York City EDC. Solar One does work around solar energy and training and job skills and education for solar as an alternative energy source, as the future of energy. In this little video, I wanted to talk to you about foraging and why I think it's a really interesting way to think about our relationship to our food web. I also wanted to introduce you to one of my favorite abundant, weedy, edible plants that you probably see every day. Talk a little bit about the safety and the ethics of foraging, particularly in urban spaces, and how it relates to my research as an artist, activist, and self-appointed citizen scientist. I think that's all I was going to talk about. Let's move. So, here we are under one of our many mulberry trees here in the park. One of the best perks of my job is that I get free lunch. There are many different types of mulberries. There's red mulberries, which are from America. There are white mulberries, which came all the way here from China and are the only food of the silkworm. It's a really long, really fascinating story as to why they're here. Can't go into it now. It's another day. But I thought I would talk a little bit about why I think foraging is an interesting lens through which to think about our food web. So, I'm from Appalachia, and when I was very little, my family grew and hunted and fished a lot of our food and foraged some of it. And I had this really direct relationship to what I ate and its relationship to my ecosystem. And a couple of years ago, in thinking about climate crisis and how we're all going to die in a fiery blaze if we're not careful, I realized that one of the things that I had really lost was that relationship to food. And so I got a guidebook, and I started going around meeting all of the plants who live here in New York, many of whom have come from all over the globe, just like us, and have amazing stories, ethnobotanical histories. And it made me realize that a lot of these plants not only could be incredibly potent allies for us as we try to navigate living on a changing planet, but also had a lot of amazing stories and lessons to teach us as to how to be better global citizens. And all of that kind of opened up this never-ending chain of questions. Wow, this plant grows here. It's incredibly drought tolerant. No one values it. It's just as delicious as spinach. I wonder what would happen if I ate it out of this tree pit. I wonder what's in this tree pit. I wonder why. I wonder what I could do about it. And then that spun out into me learning about our food system and how absolutely jacked it is. And it's just been this never-ending way for me to think about my relationship to the world. And it has directly impacted both my art practice and my life practice, which I think are actually kind of one and the same. And now I have a job doing it. So I get paid in non-pandemic times to take people on foraging walks, to host events with food, to teach you about all of the plants who live around you, and to help try and cure some of our plant blindness that is so pervasive in our culture. Want to go meet a cool plant? They're delicious. So this is my friend, Chenopodium album, otherwise known as Lambsquarter or goosefoot. They are in the goosefoot family, in the amaranth family. They are called goosefoot because their leaf shape, which I think is pretty well backlit right now, looks like a goose's foot. Some people say it also looks like a lamb's quarter. I clearly don't hang out enough with lambs to agree, but that's okay. So this is its leaf shape. Its stalk, especially when it's more mature, is often got some ridges and some bright purple coloring to it. And one of the easiest ways to learn how to identify it is its fresh new baby leaves will have this like downy white or hot pink kind of dusty stuff that you can rub off. You can eat the greens on this plant, and when it comes time, you can also collect the seeds, winnow them, and you could grind them up and put them into bread. I've done that before with my friend Lawrence, who helped me bake a loaf of sourdough with it. It is related to quinoa. It is in the same family as quinoa. So, proviso, if you're allergic to quinoa, maybe don't eat those seeds, because I am, and I can't mess with those seeds. However, I eat the greens all the time. It's growing in a tree pit near you right this very second, I promise you. If you want to grow some food, this girl right here, you won't have to do anything. She'll do it all by herself. I love her. I think she's great. And I think you should love her too. And if you think that I'm suggesting you just eat weeds that no one else would eat and that that's a crazy thing to do, I just want to let you know that this is actually a staple food for lots of people across the planet. In fact, my friend Janice is from Bangladesh. Her mom grows this on purpose in their front yard in Queens. You can buy it at the farmer's market. It grows everywhere. It's incredibly drought tolerant. Also, once the seed heads come available, there is a Mexican dish, which I'm not going to try and say, that you can take those seed heads, you could put them in some masa with some cheese and fry it up. If I wasn't allergic, I would so eat that. Yeah, that's her. I'm going to move. So here I am in Bushwick on my day off. Remember how I told you that they could grow anywhere? So let's talk a little bit about foraging in urban space, because it definitely has a lot of risks, right? I mean, obviously there's pee and poop, both dog and human. Not so great. Maybe if you're gonna try and forage in urban space, or at least in public parks, you wanna do it after a rain, you wanna kind of harvest from above the dookie and pee-pee line, and you can always go home and rinse stuff off in a little bit of water mixed with either vinegar or hydrogen peroxide. Also, herbicides are a real big problem, particularly in our public parks. They're used to try and manage invasive species. I really wish that instead we made it so that people could forage those invasive species and make use of them as either food, medicine, or craft. What else is on my list over there? Let's talk about heavy metals. So that has been one of the things I've been researching a lot with my project. I would forage something like this sample of Lambsquarter growing out of this concrete, and I would get it toxicity tested at Cornell for lead, cadmium, and arsenic. And then I would compare that to a sample of conventional spinach purchased at the grocery store. Sometimes the stuff from the grocery store has more lead in it than the stuff from the street. The stuff from the street might have a little bit of cadmium in it as well, but when I host my events, only serve items that I am able to collect that are below the standards that the EU has for heavy metals in our food system. Because spoiler alert, they're there. Some ways you can kind of think about mitigating that. Leafy greens are one of your biggest risks as far as a plant you would forage from a place like this, because with lead and cadmium, it's dust and splash from the soil that gets onto the leaf tissue and then gets absorbed into it. Whereas fruits and nuts, anything that grows up high out of the splash zone and has an exterior skin will probably fare much better. So like the wild cherry tree down the street from my house, the ginkgo trees down the street from my house, the mulberry trees down the street from my house, I consider all of those fair game. So I want to be clear. What I'm not recommending is that any of us go out and forage from the streets of Bushwick or the greater Manhattan area for every meal you eat. However, what I am asking is for us to think about notions of purity and value in our food system, and to ask questions about who we trust to feed us, at what cost, and to whom, and to think about how we can reclaim some agency over our foodways. I also just want to point out to you that the plants that you see growing on your street aren't just weeds. They're awesome. Now let's talk a little bit about ethics. So the easiest way for me to quickly talk about ethics is to point you to Robin Wall Kimmerer's notion of the honorable harvest. If you're going to forage, both either in the city or in a park or out in the country on someone's land, there is an awesome set of principles that you can think about. Never take the first, never take the last, never take more than half, be thankful, ask permission, leave a gift, notions of reciprocity and mutualism that I think that we should be using, in all of our relationships, but also with the natural world. Lastly, I thought I would point you to one of the ways that I have been cooking with this a lot. So my partner and I are really into spicy food, and we learned recently the word for this plant in Hindi is bathua. So we've been going on YouTube and Googling different bathua recipes. And so later today, we're going to make aloo bathua, which is potatoes and lambsquarter. It's delicious. I'll see you there.
Proviso. We are two white people, very white people, making this meal. We're learning. We're just learning.
All right, quick and dirty Indian recipe told to you by a very white girl. I harvested some lambsquarter from my backyard. I mix it with chili powders, cumin, ginger, turmeric, garam masala, and asafoetida, otherwise known as hing, which has a very interesting flavor. Plus some potatoes and some arugula we had that was starting to go bad that we added with our lambsquarter because we were running low. First, we cooked our cumin and our chili in a little bit of oil, got that good, added our onions, our garlic scapes, put in our potatoes, cooked them till they started going soft, added our hing and our ginger, cooked it a bit more. Then we threw in our greens with a little bit of water, let it steam and wilt. Once it was done, we added some garam masala and some turmeric, mixed it all together, got it looking good. Then, once it was finished cooking and everything was feeling great, we served it with just a little bit of pita because we were out of naan, a little bit of raita, and some toasted cashews covered in spices. Boom. Dinner. Bye.